Vincent Reynolds, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. I did 6 years, and I was stationed out of Fort Lewis for my entire career. There wasn't really anything significant in Iraq. It was kind of a boring deployment. I mean, there was some action going on here and there, but I mean, the corruption over there is just, Al-Qaeda is in Iraq. They ain't no dummies, so whenever we started winning the war, they kind of ducked down and took political parts and joined the military and joined the police forces and, kind of waited for their reinsurgence, and that's kind of what happened when we drew down. But our main focus over there was to help the locals rebuild. So we'd go out and build schools, refurnish schools. When I say that, I mean we made those things nice. Desks, books, globes, maps, everything that a school would need. And it was all done in vain because we'd go back 2 weeks later to check on the place and it was just ransacked. It's disheartening, but it's rewarding at the same time. So you trained for years to go do the kicking doors in thing, but whenever you get over there and you see the kids and the lifestyle that they have there, you just kind of want to help. You want to give back. You want to make this place a better place. You know that this is what they live with on a daily basis, and you know what it's like back here, and you're like, man, I want to bring you up. I want to help you. But at the same time, you still got a job to do, and it's whatever you're told. And as an infantry guy, you can be fluid. So you don't always have to be kicking doors in to have that same rewarding feeling as kicking the door and engaging the bad guy. When you get to your unit, your leadership is supposed to take you in a direction that they want you to be, because every unit's going to be different. Every leadership's different. And so in order for them to cohese with each other, I would, I'd have them all build a hatred toward me. Sergeant Reynolds was kind of a jerk, and they're talking amongst themselves about this, and you get guys from all different walks of life building that rapport with each other to the point that now they're brothers, now they're friends, now they're willing to go above and beyond for each other. And in turns, they'll do that for me. So once they know that, hey, I'm in charge, then you can kind of tone it down a little bit and kind of, keep your leadership role, but kind of start teaching them. So now that they know that you're in charge, now they'll listen to you. And then you can start teaching them, hey, this is how mortars work. This is how infantry tactics work. And then you can start building them up. Because my job as a leader wasn't just to be in charge. It was to be able to hand those reins down. Like when I got blown up, I wasn't worried. I knew the guy that behind me could handle his job, could do my job, because I trained him to do that. That was the utmost importance to me. I mean, other than completing the mission, other than doing the right thing at the right, integrity and stuff like that, that was the utmost, because that's the mission. I mean, that really is the mission, I guess, because if we're out on patrol, and for instance, like when I got blown up, like I said, I wasn't worried about that whole patrol being compromised, because this guy could do my job, that other guy could do my job, and if they're doing, if my squad leader's doing their job, then the guys behind them could step up and do their jobs. So there was no domino effect. It was next man up. That was always in the uppermost of my mind. I never wanted to lose a guy, ever. And fortunately, I never did. But that's because I never expected my guys to do something I wouldn't want to do. I mean, obviously, I want to continue to live, but if push comes to shove, I would give my life for one of them. And so, I mean, yeah, we lost a lot of guys, but a lot of the stuff that they did wasn't to kill us now. Because they wanted to make smaller IEDs so they could make more of them. And they would make, just enough to take a leg, a 5-pounder. Whereas before they were putting 20-pounders, which would kill a guy. 10-pounder would kill a guy. They were putting little 5-pounder, little toe poppers, enough to maim and, dishearten the unit and get that individual off the battlefield. But what the Taliban seemed to have misconstrued is that whenever you injure a guy, that usually just ticks off that unit, and then they're coming at you harder, because they have that love for each other, that brotherhood. Well, first when I got blown up, I didn't even realize it was me that got blown up, and then they're like, hey, Sergeant, you're missing your leg. I was like, oh, crap. And at that point, I knew I was still alive, and that's when the pain kind of set in. And I welcomed that pain with open arms, because at least with that pain, I knew I was still alive. And I mean, that was a huge thing. And then kind of when I got back, it kind of, even to this day, it's still kind of setting in to the point that, you know, I'm blessed. You know, there were some better men than me that didn't come back. You know, and there's families out there that lost their son, their husband, their boyfriend, you know, from my unit in particular. And, you know, dads didn't make it back. And a lot of these guys were young guys. Well, you have to have complete trust in one another. So the brotherhood, these guys are, you know, just as close to me, if maybe a little bit closer than some of my blood relatives, just because, I mean, your relationship is literally forged in fire. And you have to trust this guy, and everybody down that line to have your best interest in mind, and you can't consciously think about it. Your brotherhood is, I mean, it's everything, because you got to be out, you eat, sleep, shower, go to the bathroom. I mean, everything that you do is together, and it's like that all the time. It's not just out in the field and you're hanging out. You're eating at the chow hall together. I had a sergeant major that literally changed my career. You know, because I wasn't a career guy, but a sergeant major changed that. But that's all. I mean, he just put that focus in on me. Sergeant major's like way up here, and you know, they're generally angry individuals. And he pulled me into his office, and I was like, man, I'm dead. Like, I'm dead. And he said, hey, Private, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you look at 90% of the good NCOs, they have a little bit of a record. They have some paperwork. They have a paper trail behind them, and it's not all good. He's like, now, you're at a pivotal point where you can go down two different roads. You can take this and learn from it, or you can keep going down the road of self-destruction. At that point, when I became a specialist, I was about where I was supposed to be. And then Specialist Reynolds became Sergeant Reynolds, leaving my peers behind me. And it's all because of that Sergeant Major who turned everything around for me. You know, just brought me back to, you know, he gave me a purpose again. But after that, I mean, I was like, yeah, that made complete sense to me. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so then, before I got blown up, I re-enlisted. I mean, I was a lifer. That was my career. For me personally, there's no higher honor. You know, I loved what I did. I love the guys that I served with. I keep in touch with a vast majority of them. And if I don't keep in touch with them personally, social media today has made it so easy just for us to kind of keep an indirect contact with each other. So, I mean, it was probably the most influential thing on my entire life. You know, even today, there are things that I do based on what I learned there. You know, the values that you learn in the military are things that I live by to this day. When I started learning about the military, I was like, this is a lifestyle I really enjoy. I embraced it. I mean, I had my grandpa, he served, he was in the Navy. He was drafted. And, you know, sometimes he'd tell me some stories, and I remember as a kid, he would light up about it, but then it would just get cut off, you know, and that was it. And I was just like, I want to be like Grandpa. I want to be like Grandpa. I can tell you why I don't talk about it with some people, and that's because, you know, I cherish them. I don't want them to see the things that I've seen, you know, whether, you know, even if it's in a mental capacity. Those were my fights. And I hold my daughter, my fiance, and my family, they're cherished to me, and they're the pure parts of my life. So I don't want them to see me at my primal state. I don't want them to know the atrocities that I've done. You know, those were my demons. They're not anybody else's to have to fight. There's certain things that I hold dear to me, and there's certain things I want them to stay away from, and that's part of the reason that I went and did what I did. I don't want these people that have to see the things on the news. I don't want them to have to see the ugliness of the world. I did it so that they could sleep, so that they could sleep at night quietly and not have to hear machine guns and IEDs blowing up in the background. I don't ever want my daughters to have to witness even something close to a 9/11. And 9/11 was bad, but when you get over there, we may not have lost as many lives over there, but just what you go through on a daily basis over there is an atrocity in itself. And I don't ever want for my family to ever have to see that. That was my war. That was my fight, and I volunteered for that. You go to sleep. I mean, be sitting there and you're getting ready to. Your guard shift is over or whatever, and the sun's going down. You're looking out across this barren place, and I mean, we're talking mud huts, mud grape rows, but the sunsets are amazing. They're the prettiest sunsets you'll ever see. The prettiest sunset I've ever seen was in Afghanistan. And at that moment, you know that there's something there bigger than you. I mean, and that's the end of the day. Hey, I get to live for another day. And there's people that didn't, but you're there because of them. They gave you the ability to be there and witness that sunset. They made that sacrifice for you. And so you don't take those things for granted, and you know that there's something there that's bigger than you. There's a bigger picture. I'm sure there probably were some people that didn't believe in the Lord, and I bet you they came to it real quick whenever bullets start flying. Over there, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're limited with chaplains, and the chaplain, he kind of had to jump around, and you only get service every once in a while. But it was funny because you'd start to see, as the deployment wore on, more and more people started showing up to service. Unfortunately, in trying times, people want to come to the Lord, but whenever they're being successful and lack of worry, they kind of put the Lord on hold. The Lord wants you to come to church. The Lord wants you to appreciate Him. But I think the last part right there is the biggest part, is appreciate Him and respect Him. And going to church and sitting in four walls, I don't think that's the big picture. I think if you understand the Lord, you want to be part of the Lord, and you embrace the Lord, no matter where you're at, He's with you. No matter what you're doing, He's with you. And maybe some people, and I know a lot of people that did find Jesus over there, and I'm happy about that. I mean, as long as you have the Lord in your heart, the Lord's with you there too. It's not just within the four walls, it's everywhere. I mean, the Lord's with you everywhere. So some of those folks that came in and truly wanted to learn and truly wanted to embrace Him, good. There's no, hey, you're new to this, so you're not as good as me. You're new to this coming to church thing. No. Regardless of whether you know their intention or not, or regardless of whether they truly embrace Him, you want to bring them in anyway. So you want to, I mean, you're loving, you're welcoming them with open arms anyway, and believing that they have the best intention, because that's what you want to do. You want them to come in, and if it's a hostile environment, well, that's going to kind of drive them away. If the people that are at the church and representing the church, whether it's the chaplain or the pastor or just a congregation itself, if that's a hostile environment and not welcoming, people aren't going to continue to come, and that's going to be their experience of the Lord, and that's what they're going to associate with the Lord. So we always tried tried to welcome most people anyway, regardless of where you're at and what you're doing, or you can be on the other side of the planet in a place like where I was at, or you could be sitting in the front pew of the church. And as long as the Lord is in your heart, the Lord's with you in both places. When I first came to this church, this church has been welcomed me with open arms, and I'm a real skeptical person. So, like, even when I first met you and you were helping me and my family out, I was like, what is this dude's underlying? Because I didn't know you well enough. But I was real skeptical. I was like, what is the underlying? Why are these guys? Why is everybody being so? What do they want? Because in my experience, most people don't do nice things just out of the kindness of their heart, or aren't nice people just out of the kindness of their heart. And part of that is probably because I've just been away from. I isolated myself for a while, and I kind of stepped away from the Lord for a while. And when I came back here, it was a total shift in mindset for me, and kind of put me back where I needed to be when it comes to my spirituality, and it kind of everybody bringing me back in and it was helping thy neighbor, and it was something that I wasn't used to. And now I'm just kind of enjoying it. I'm trying, and it has allowed me to let my guard down when it comes to just being a defensive person, and B, has allowed me and made me want to help more people. So, that's what welcoming the Lord, bringing the Lord back into my life has done to me. I believe everything happens for a reason. But I think if my past still led me here, I don't think there'd be any difference. I think if another vet or even a non-vet came through that door, I think everybody would treat them very similar here. Everybody here is, they're like family with each other. Whenever you're over there and, you really take it in, you can actually see the beauty in the land. You'd be after a long patrol, doing a 20K march into some village, and then you get there and you're welcomed with a less than happy crowd, and you're getting a long firefight, and you're going door to door, and it takes a toll on you. And then at the end of the day, it's not like at the end of the day everybody just gets to lay down and crash. No, you're still pulling security and stuff like that, and you'd be sitting there on top of a roof pulling security, and that sun going down. Most amazing thing in the world. And at that point you can be like, all right, he's here. He in this land that seems godless, the Lord will show you that he's still present. And at the end of that day, you get to wake up and continue on with your mission and continue on keeping your brother safe, and that's all in his grace. The Lord does those things. He has a plan, and he just had to guide me in that direction. And even through the hard times, I knew that he was there. When I was in the hospital, I knew he was by my bed, and I was able to keep a positive attitude through the whole thing because of that. And I knew, in a big picture, I knew that there was something, this happened for a reason. I didn't just get blown up because, of bad circumstances. If it wasn't for that, I'd still be in the military. I wouldn't be in Texas. I wouldn't be able to attend this church. My family life would be a lot different. My friend circle would be a lot different. The things that I am able to do outside of the military would be a lot different. So with those things, it's changed my life, and to me, it's for the better. I think he's been there through every deployment I've been on. I think he's been with me from, the day I took my first breath. Prior to that, everything happens for a reason. You're in the military for a reason. You're here because this is the plan that you had. This is the plan that was given to you. You were here to take on the hardships that others don't want to face. You're here to fight the evil others don't want to see. And protect your brother to your left, to your right, and always move forward. The Lord's with you, and He'll guide you within that path. So just stay faithful and stay moving forward. And let's believe that you're here for some reason. You're not just put here to waste oxygen. You're here for some purpose. You got to accomplish something. So let's get you on that track. Let's get you moving forward. Let's get you moving forward, man. You're sitting here stagnant. You're pond water. Let's get you accomplishing something. There's been days where I've struggled with it. I mean, there's been, like I said, there's been times where I stepped away and I regressed. I've gone back to places to where I want to isolate myself, to where my relationship with my family may not always be the greatest. But I take that on me. That was me, and that was on me. And then whenever I came back, whenever the Lord welcomed me back in, because He never, like I said, He never left me. He was always there by my side. He was always whispering in my ear. But I have to open my ears and listen. And whenever I started thinking about myself and how can I better myself, that's when I actually regressed. I didn't better myself. I started regressing, going back into a darker place. And once I started listening, I was able to start moving forward again. So being able to have that impact on other people's life, I mean, it's monumental. It's huge. And it's completely rewarding to me. And it just helps me see, hey, what I've been doing is working because it's helping other people. So not only do I want to keep growing as an individual, but I want to help other individuals. Whenever you're talking about helping a veteran that's going through a hard time, it's not just helping that veteran. It's helping his whole circle. So you're bringing in that whole family. You may pinpoint your focus on helping that individual because you know what they've been through. But your support system, like my fiance and my children, and specifically my fiance, she knows how difficult it's been, through the good times and the bad. So you got to get them involved with it as well. It's not a one-man operation, and it's like I said before, you can't succeed in any mission you do in life just putting your head down and try to knuckle down and do it. I mean, there's some situations where you got to grind it out, but just know that there's people behind you. You're not just doing this by yourself. And maybe there aren't people behind you, but if that is your mission, that was given to you for a reason. So if you got to be a hard charger, then you got to be a hard charger. But sometimes you need some place to fall back. Even the toughest men, toughest women need a place to take a knee, so to speak. And some of the toughest men I've ever met are some of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. You look at them at home, you're like, you're dressed up as a ballerina, bro. Because they're playing with their kids. And that's kind of the mindset you try to get these guys into, that you don't always have to be that rough, tough guy. And I think that's the hardest discrepancy whenever you come back from the military, is that you think you need to be this rowdy, tough, strong guy that relies on nobody. And you just kind of assume that, back in civilian life, everybody is the same way. And that's not the way it is. Because in the military, you can be that way. Because this guy's that way, that guy's that way, but you guys can come together and be that way. Where when you're in the civilian world, it kind of isolates you by doing that. And so when you come back, and then when you have those people struggling, you got to kind of break down those walls and let them know that it's okay to talk to other people, to rely
not necessarily have to rely on people, but just be able to count on other people in a different way. And I mean, that was something that I struggled with. I still struggle with sometimes to this day, especially when it comes to meeting new people and going to new environments. But it's one of those things you just got to sit there and remind yourself, like, hey, it's all right. I got these people to fall back on. I got my family that's going to help me, be successful. There's people out there that want you to be successful, and you just kind of got to believe in that. I find myself trying to reach out to the kids probably the most. Not just within the Lord, but without, like I said, taking them out and experiencing things. I don't think because their father or mother made that ultimate sacrifice or came home and wasn't able to handle the burdens of war, I don't think the children should suffer for those reasons. So I think, we should be able to, as a community and as a nation, stand behind those children. To me, making sure that they get to experience the optimum life, just because their parent made that ultimate sacrifice, they shouldn't have to sacrifice as well. The parent made that sacrifice so their kid didn't have to sacrifice. And they're doing that, and I see it in a lot of circumstances. I see it in a lot of places where that's happening, and it's very unfortunate. I just try to, I just want kids to know that their mother or their father or their mother or their son or daughter, whatever the case may be, because it's not always kids. Parents sometimes don't get it either. Why my kid, whatever. But you need to reassure them that what they did was bigger than them. What they gave for was bigger than them. I want, and this sounds bad, but I want my daughter and my fiance to be ignorant to some of the evils in this world. I don't want them to ever have to see some of the things that I've had to see. I never want them to experience some of the things I've had to experience. And for that reason, that's why I served, to protect those ignorance, those parts of ignorance. And there's bad people out there trying to do bad things. And in our little bubble that we call the United States, people just sometimes lose track of that. And and with media and stuff like that, you only see what they want you to see. You don't see the real reality of the situation. You hear about these ISIS groups, the ISIS over there in Iraq. Those are a bad group of dudes. But take a step outside your little nutshell here. Put yourself in a situation. There's people that live with that every single freaking day. We just watch it on the news. Well, guess what? Over there, people are getting beheaded all the time. We just see the onesies and twosies because they're Americans. They're stringing people up on the streets and cutting people's heads off and hands on a daily basis. But we don't see that. But imagine living in a world like that. It's brutal. To me, Memorial Day is every day. To me, Veterans Day has been every day. Not for me personally, but if I see another vet, guess what, man? Come here, buddy. What's up? And Memorial Day is, I never forget my brothers and sisters in arms that have paid that cost, ever. From the time I wake up to the time I fall asleep, they're in the utmost part of my mind, and whenever things start to get difficult for me now, I think about it. I'm like, just like I said, when I got blown up, I like that pain because it let me know I was alive. When I start to struggle, I embrace that pain too, because I know I'm still alive. So, yeah.